Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier, the feature race at Arlington Park on Saturday. Race number 7, it's a one-turn mile. It's the Grade 3 Hanshin Cup. Let's take a peek at this field. It's a really intriguing race, a one-turn mile over the poly-track footing. And we've got the defending champion in this race, and all he is 20 to 1 on the morning line. That's the number 6 Crewman, who won this race last year at 25 to 1 off of an off-the-board finish at Keeneland. He's coming into this race off an off-the-board finish at Keeneland, although that was a very live edition of the Grade 3 Commonwealth, and I think it was just a prep.
And I think the other thing, too, that you've got to keep in mind with a horse like this, on dirt, he's 1 for 14. On turf, he's 0 for 14. On synthetic, he's 5 for 10, and he's been in the money 8 of 10 starts. So this is what he wants to do. And I agree with you. I feel like this was nothing more. That run at Keeneland was nothing more than a stopgap. Get to this point. He's 3 for 7 over the Arlington Park synthetic surface. He's going to probably work at a pretty good trip. He forwardly placed. There's some other proper speed in here, so I don't think he's going to be out there pushing the pace. But if he's 2 or 3 lengths off of it, perhaps he gets first run on the deep closers.
The last time he raced on a synthetic surface, he was defeated by the number 5, Well Abled, who is also an exceptional synthetic horse. But that race came at 6.5 furlongs, and that really is Well Abled's game. Well Abled stretching out to this mile makes me a little bit nervous. He is a very fast horse, however.
Yeah, for me, that was the real hang-up with this horse. I think he's brilliant. He has an unbelievable amount of speed. He has dirt speed if they chose to go that route. He has 5 furlong turf speed. But synthetic is really where he makes his hay. The problem is he couldn't quite finish the deal in that Lost in the Fog at Golden Gate. That was at 6 furlongs. You stretch him out to a mile, we're getting into uncharted territory. The only other time they've gone 2 turns or long with him, because this isn't a 2-turn race, they went long with him in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and he spit it badly and finished up the track. I have no confidence that he can get a mile distance.
He might get a mile if it's a nice, easy pace, but Timeform US doesn't have a kind situation for Well Abled. As we put up the pace projector, that red bar indicates Timeform US believes the pace will be fast and that Well Abled will be pushed early by the 8 Gone Ghost, and I have to admit, I have no arguments with that. Gone Ghost, gate-to-wire winner basically in his last 3 races, 2 of them officially. This is a horse that's been just fine on synthetic, but he's going to get a different situation than what we saw last time out at Hawthorne, where it was a 2-turn race and he just walked the dog at 2 to 5 on the lead. This time he's in chase mode, chasing a fast horse.
Yeah, there's a couple of things with this horse. You know, you're going to need to make a call. Do you actually think that he can successfully sit off of a target? Because if he gets into a prolonged speed duel, maybe he puts Well Abled away, but he's probably going to pay the price down the lane. I kind of wonder, going from 2 turns to the 1 turn, does it just take a little bit of the early gas out of him? It's not like he was burning out there. Like you say, he was just cruising on a basically uncontested lead. If you think he can sit, he becomes very interesting. If you don't, he is probably up against it.
Christian Seas made most of his money on turf. This is going to be his first start of the year, so he's going to have to deal with a pretty long layoff for trainer Wayne Catalano, but he kept good company towards the end of 2017, running in the Grade 1 Shadwell Turf Mile as a 110 to 1 outsider. And then last time out in the River City Handicap over a yielding turf course, he chased Shining Copper through some fast fractions, and we saw Shining Copper come back and win the Grade 2 Fort Lauderdale with a 101 buyer. This horse can be forward, but I'm not sure that's the right running style.
I was going to say, I kind of like him a few lengths off of the pace, and perhaps it just works out for him this time around with those other speeds. I don't know also about the synthetic. I know he's won over it, but I kind of feel like his best efforts have come on turf. We'll find out if he can replicate it on synthetic.
Matru is coming into this race in very good form. He has won his last 2 races. He's a head away from coming into this race off a 3-race win streak. He won on turf very early in his career in England. Maybe that bodes well as he makes his synthetic track debut, but oftentimes for me, it's just hard seeing them replicate the good dirt form on the synth. Completely different ball game.
Agreed. And, you know, for him, he is kind of a wild card in here, because if he takes to it, he's obviously a contender. But I just have no idea if, after 22 lifetime starts and as an 8-year-old now, is all of a sudden a change in surface what he wants. He's been in good form on the dirt. We'll find out if he can successfully stand up on the synth.
Great Wide Open wheels back in 2 weeks after a non-threatening effort in the elusive Quality Stakes sprinting on the turf at Belmont. This is another horse that has won on a synthetic surface in the past overseas. Buyers 2 and 3 back on turf okay, but I have to admit I've never really been a big fan of this horse, and he's another one that's done his best running when forward.
Agreed. I will say the one thing that I'm a little bit intrigued with here anyway is One turn. I think a 1-turn mile for him might be a little bit better than some other horses in here, because you've seen he's done some good things going 1 turn in the past. When you get him out to the 2 turns, with the exception of that win 3 back at the fairgrounds, 2 turns to me is usually his bugaboo. I think this 1 turn over the synth is a little bit interesting.
It was nice to see Western Elegance get over the hump on dirt last time out. He'd been mostly a synthetic and turf horse throughout his career. He got a fast and contested pace to rallied into that day at 24-1, but the 4th place horse came back to finish second in a stake at the fairgrounds with a 92 buyer. That race has come back solid, and again, he's done good work on synth. A fast pace works to his advantage. Maybe you could sneak him in underneath at a price.
Yeah, from the outside, you've seen that he's 11 times second, 5 times third from 37 lifetime starts. I'm a little bit unsure about the distance. It feels like perhaps a slightly shorter distance is better for him, but again, you brought up the reasons that you could make a case for him underneath.
Matt Harmack went dirt to synthetic successfully last year when winning the Bruce Dean Memorial over this 1-turn mile, and he's going to try that trick again as he makes his second start of 2018. Did you just look at his seasonal debut on dirt as nothing more than a prep race? I know the race hasn't come back very strong, but he just sort of hung at the back of the pack, and they just let him roll through the stretch late, sort of like just a prep. He'll be ready second back.
Kind of the way I interpreted it. Like you said, they showed no intention early on and they just let him come with a nice finish. And I do find it interesting. I wonder if that move that they made last summer, if that kind of was planted in their head saying, you know what, we have an opportunity for an instance just like this in 2018. Let's circle that. It wouldn't surprise me if this horse came with a big bid.
Let's throw up our picks real quick. We may talk about 1 or 2 more, but I want to talk about Master Marion before we get to Gone Ghost. This is a Wesley Ward trainee that really got good during the summer of 2017. He reeled off 4 straight wins. Then he made his seasonal debut at Keeneland, chasing a very fast pace over that yielding turf course. I didn't like the fact that he was very late to change leads. That's not Master Marion, but maybe it was just the yielding turf course at Keeneland. My main concern about him, and he has good tactical speed and can work at a trip, is A, he hasn't run on a synthetic surface in his career. Wesley Ward says he trains great over it. And B, that field on April the 8th just has not come back good.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. Master Marion, he's probably one of the more likely win candidates in here. I've never loved him, but I do think you bring up the piece where he's never run on synth, and that for me is a major sort of, I don't want to call it a red flag, but it's a concern. But then I look into Formulator, and you can get into the weeds there. Past 5 years, turf to synth. Second after the layoff, he's 14 for 29. 24 of them in the money with a 227 ROI. If anybody can do this, it's Wesley Ward. I wouldn't be surprised if Master Marion ran well, but I think he's going to be too short and he's going to be an underlay.
Now let's talk about your top pick, the 8 Gone Ghost, 7-2 on the morning line. All he's done is win 10 of 13 lifetime and 5 of his last 6. Are you a little concerned that he's got to chase well-abled and they'll be going fast early, or are you just simply happy I'm getting the jump on these deep closers?
Well, it's kind of a little bit of this and a little bit of that, where I kind of like the idea that well-abled is going to go. I really have major concerns about well-abled seeing out this distance. I also have major concerns about Gone Ghost actually wanting to go buy a horse, because most of his best runs have come out right on the lead. I hope this is an instance where the distance is a bugaboo for well-abled, and just kind of by default, Gone Ghost inherits this thing, and if he's got the jump on Master Marion and everybody else coming from off of it, maybe that's enough to get him over the top. I'm
going to go with Ghost Hunter in here. He was second in this race in 2017, but I think he was the best horse. He was checked terribly in between horses in mid-stretch. He was only beaten a neck. It was a 98 buyer speed figure. That race was his second start of the year. They're going to try to repeat that pattern here. He ran in the Henry Clark last time out at Laurel, and it was kind of a weird race because on the turn in between horses, he just dropped back drastically, like he was showing no interest in running, and then he re-rallied a bit in the stretch. Jamie Ness is putting blinkers on, and I'm not sure if that's good or I'm not sure if that's bad. I wonder if it's because he wants this horse to focus a little better. I'm hoping that he dropped back on the turn because maybe he just lost his focus off the layoff, and not it's because he's 8 years old. But he's done well, obviously, over this track. He's going to get some pace. He seeks his 19th lifetime win.
This is a racehorse. I mean, this is a horse that's gone out 51 times and he's been in the money on 38 occasions. It's hard to knock a horse like this. Like you say, 18 victories. The blinkers on, perhaps it's sort of a hoping to wake the old boy up and get him to focus a little bit more. Before I totally write him off, I want to see one more kind of lackluster effort because, okay, first start off of a layoff at 8 years old, maybe he just needed one. I'm hopeful that that's the case because I think he's going to come with an honest bid. If you see a dull effort again on Saturday, then maybe you start to wonder, is Father Time catching up to him?
Gone Ghost, the top pick for you. Give me numbers.
8-9-1-6.
I'm going 1-9-3-8 in the Grade 3 Hanshin Cup. Race number 7 at Arlington on Saturday is an approximate post time of 4:41 Central. Best of luck.